Good morning, traders. This is Perry Wilkie with StartupTrading.com. It is 12 minutes till 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, October 20th. So, looking back at Friday's session, uh, just kind of went up in the overnight session, right? We uh, kind of had that blow off peak, right? But watching and I'm talking about the VIX here, and then it just was in a very measured, right? Fib retracement down. You can throw some fibs on there from that high, right? And it was going down. So as it's kind of one time framing down, right, from that high in the in the overnight session, which corresponded to the low in the overnight session, which is exactly where uh, we had a huge separation in the ES auction, right? We had some poor structure down there from the Friday before, right? We hit down there and then just come up, uh, back up into value as the overnight session was started, and just kind of set in value the rest of the day, and then just traded to the top of the poor structure. So a lot of times, profile wise, you'll get to where there's some poor structure from the not too recent past, or the recent past I should say, in the last 2 weeks or less, that is pretty pronounced on one side, and maybe a short term, like within the last 3 days, on the upper side, or vice versa. And those can be your bounds for the day. It doesn't mean you're going to go, all the way down there, but when you clearly see a rejection, like we did in the overnight session, of failure to go lower, the VIX failure to continue going higher, right? Right at technical levels, that was something to be seen. And also, just of note, right, when the market's really not doing diddly squat, right, it's been volatile. It's been great for us day traders. But when I say it's not doing diddly squat, what I mean by that is it's staying within the realms of where positioning says it should stay, where the option traders are placing huge monetary bets that you're going to stay between. And another key sign coming into that was, right, this is the 1 day low expected move on the low side of the range for toss. Once we cleared back above that after that VIX peaked, right, that was the floor in both the NQ and the ES. That really gave you something to trade against to the long side. Uh, and then again, we just kind of drifted from there up. We didn't hit the high side. Remember, just because you trade one side doesn't mean you're going to trade the other side, but you continued towards it, and we just traded that poor structure. So I think I beat that up a little bit. And as you look at where the Qs got back up and they tagged that 605 after being down at basically 590 in the overnight session, which was also the put wall for the day, the week, and long term, right? So that was supposed to be the floor, and the floor acted as it's supposed to, right? Support. But that's a $15 move up. Uh, so, quite the day for option traders, if you will. I think I beat up that. Let's get into where we're at right now. We're still within that range of that Friday sell off from Friday the 10th. Huge range. No surprise that we're still in it. And what we've done is just kind of went back in and just filled in different parts of this profile. You can see we've got a decent little profile up here, and you can see below that, right, there's uh, building, a little bit more volume up here, right, than we have at this. If you look at this high volume node, it's getting to be a little bit bigger than this high volume node, which means you're building up overhead supply potentially. So if this gets a little bit bigger and you start going under it, for example, that would be overhead supply, that resistance that could hold for a little while. But until you get under it, right, and trap some of those traders, and I would say until you really start, uh, there's a lot that would happen with us day traders between now and then. But longer term positioning wise, If you start getting below the 65.40, you're probably going to start making fills down to 64.50, which, I'm just not saying that's not much of a stretch, another 90 points down, but that's something to watch. And then that will be a decision at that point in time when we get down there. And again, why am I talking about this now when there's probably no chance that we're going to hit that today and maybe not even this week? Is because you have to have a plan uh, for bigger moves when they happen before they happen, right? Jack talks about it all the time. So, nothing to really see here. We are basically, as Friday's auction kind of went down to the lower end, right? We're getting up into the upper end uh, of a split in the auction, right? I just was showing you those high volume nodes. So we'll see if we can clear. This is the end of that Friday move, right? And on all these boxes for this poor structure, if you just right click on them and edit the properties, you can see what date they are from. If you look at the oldest date, right? So this is from, October 10th is when the structure was put on here. Uh, but we got a split here at 25,131, and then we have the expected high range of the day is right around the middle of this box. So, again, that's not the end all be all, but it's something to say that, institutions, when Friday's close was happening, as they were positioning themselves for today, they were thinking that's a pretty safe high end of the range, that, the middle of this uh, poor structure that's left from that day. So, right? So we'll see if that ends up holding or not. We have some poor structure below. So I would say, first off, your key markers profile wise are going to be 24,975, this 25,131, and then up into this larger block that's basically 25,200 to 300, with that so right in the middle of it, right, 25,250 is around where they're expecting that top end of the range. And if you look at the ES, uh, you can see very similar. They're not even expecting it to get into that distribution block. Um, and if again, if you right click on it, you can get the exact levels of the distribution block. So you're looking at basically 67.67 to 67.84 is that split in the auction as well. So you've got the markers down here that are basically from 66.97 half to 6,700, right? That's the split there. That would be equivalent to this NASDAQ split. They're both just slightly under unchanged. I think I beat that up. So let's look at positioning a little bit. We know that it's not pictured on here, but the call wall until the end of the year is actually at 7,000, right? For uh, today, the call wall will be at 67.85. We closed on the cash market at 66.64, right? So this would be 120 points higher than where we closed on Friday. It's probably not happening, right? We're up right now 31 handles on the ES, so you'd have about another 90 to go or so. Uh, Not to say they can't, right? We had a pretty large expiration on Friday, right? Sometimes you're able to do a reset after that. But as we look out into the title of my video is No News Monday, because there's really nothing going on that's scheduled wise. It doesn't mean there can't be some, you know, surprise headlines coming out. Go figure from this administration that we'd have a surprise headline anytime. But, it is possible. But scheduled wise, there's nothing really to upset the apple cart today. Kind of meander, drift where you want. But what I do want to draw your attention to is for the week. We got Netflix after the bell on Tuesday, followed by Wednesday morning we have the VIX roll, and then Wednesday after the bell we have Tesla, right? So there's some big earnings that are going there, right? So again, we closed the cash market at 66.64 on Friday. You can see there's for the week there's a lot of gamma at 6700, a lot at 6650, and you can see that for today 6715 to 6730, 6720 to 6730 has a little bit of a positioning for today. And then I would say watch this 6745 to 50 if we get any up move. And I would kind of uh, want to see, if we start heading that way, I'd want to see that you can actually trade above 6750 with a dropping VIX, or I think that, there's a high chance that that's, uh, you know, kind of it for us day traders, right? There's room above there, but you would have to see it to believe it. And what you should see if you do hands off around 67.45 to 50 as we get up there, what should happen is, and don't worry about missing it, right? You should cross over uh, the 67.50 if you're going to stay strong. And then you should come back and hold that as support, and your stop against, trying to, if you think we're staying above that level, is going to be, under this probably around 43. 67.43 is around where I put it. And then, but you should really hold it, and you can have it tight. You really shouldn't get too much below 67.46, more than likely, if you're gonna, continue to drift higher. And what you'd really like to see is, right around this 67.50 hold. You can also get the opposite, right? If you want to do it as a flip point. So what I'm saying, this should be a pretty good support resistance range. If you end up dropping below it, you could easily come back down to 67.30 to 67.25. That's why you need to have your stop right there for getting above. But really watch the VIX and pay attention to the VIX if you get around this area. So I beat up the cash market. Let's go on to the SPY, which is a little bit easier to read. We closed on the SPY at 664, up 664. I'm sorry, 664, 39 on Friday. So just under the 665, and then we're currently trading 667.40 right now. So we're in this mess. You can see for today between 665 and 670, you kind of got a lot of options bet in this area, and then all the way up to 67.75 was some major bumps at 67 or at 670, 672 right in there. And you can see for the week 672, 673 should be a little bit of a resistance point as well. And then excuse me. So watch now that we're above the 667. That could potentially be a little bit of a floor this morning, and we'll see. So just kind of play it out in steps, but you're looking at uh, 670 as your first stop on the bus, and to be honest with you, you could sit between 670 and 672 for a lot of the session, and all the way up to 673 potentially could be where you go, and not quite get 675 today, but we'll see. Let's watch that. But I would say below 667, you're looking at the 20 points right back to 665. And then getting below 665, you really need to have a rising VIX. Those are your positions to really watch the VIX. It's going to be below 665 or above 670 is what you're going to watch if you're playing, any of the S&P products with what I showed you on the cash, right? You got to watch two things if you play the ES. You got to watch the SPY and you got to watch the SPX. If you play the NQ, there's some other things you should be watching minorly, but they're so insignificant, you really just need to watch the Qs. That's why I only post numbers for the Qs. So on the Qs, we closed at 604 basically on Friday. We're currently trading 607.75. So right under this 608, you can see that there's some puts. So between 608 and 610, right, would be an area of contention or whatever, or consolidation, this would be a 120 point range if you can get it. So consider this one section from 608 to 610, and then forget about 607, and then think about really 604 to 606. So a dollar plus or minus is 605 is the way I look at it. But you can see that there's a little bit of not too much going on between 610 and 615. And for today, the call wall is on the daily call wall is at 615, and you can see, you've got 12,500 there, and for the week you got 34,000 up there, with 610 still being for the week right now. To the downside, and what I'd really watch is below 604, I really think you need to have a rising VIX. You can still slide down to 600 and recheck, but I think you really need some help with the VIX to get down there, or it's going to be short lived. And then if the VIX really gets out of bed for whatever reason, if there's some shocking headline, 595 should be your floor today. And for the week, you've got a large gamma at 592 and then 590. And you can even see for the day 591, 590. And that's if things really fall out of bed with a rising VIX, and you're just and some really technical you would need extremely technical sequences to the downside, I think, on Jack's Fibs to start really making progress below 604. So I think we beat up positioning. So let's look at it for today. So this 610 half basically is right around where players thought that would be the high end of the range. So these are usually support resistance areas and around. So if you get over that, that could become support. And again, your call wall for the day is up at 615, but for the week it's at 610. But your long-term call wall is still at 600. So we are overbought long-term. But as positioning is rolling up here, right, and we see positioning moving, right, and on it, just I mentioned this once every week or 2 weeks, but you really want to watch as you're playing for bias. And Jack has an indicator where he's showing you the plus to minus fives all the time, right? And part of the input to that, not giving away too much of a secret sauce here, is where we are with the VIX, right? So I always watch, when you're in a strong move up, the majority of the strong move up is between the +1 and the +2 standard deviation and above. And when you're in a strong move down, a lot of it's below, is between the -1 and the -2 and below, right? But normally what happens is you get a clear flip on the VIX, right? So the first test of that is your point, right? And if it's just going to be one of those shakeout FU trades, right? You start going from the -1 to the +1, right? So keep in mind, but right now we're about to open up here. If we were to open up right now, we'd be at this 6,700 is where we'd be at this point in time uh, on the cash market, right? So we've already, or I'm sorry, 67.75. Well, I'll have to get back to you on that, but we're at one of the larger places, uh, gamma wise. So this is going to be support resistance right where we're at. You can see that was clearly, uh, you had a 20. You come up here earlier, you had a 25 point pullback, and then you went back right up 25 points pull. Plus or minus 25 points. So top and bottom of the range. So we'll see if that flips, right? But right now we have to assume that it's going to hold your at the +2 as well. I'm not saying to short here. I might not do anything. I don't like the first day after OPEX, right? I like to see if a trend's going to develop before I put in there, because there's sometimes easy money to be made, right? On a level shift. I just don't know how much of a level shift we're going to get with Netflix after the bell tomorrow, the VIX roll Wednesday morning, and then Tesla after the bell on Wednesday night. I think that we could kind of float up Like I said, maybe hit some of these levels, stay in this range. It doesn't mean we're going to smoke down, but remember, we're opening up above value. This is where value was Friday. We could definitely start one time framing higher here, but let's let it prove itself. Is it going to be the buy the rumor, sell the news kind of crap or what? But I'm looking for a little bit of a two-sided market today, with maybe touching some of these resistance levels above. Then I want to watch and see how the VIX really rolls out. I hope this helps. We'll see what Jack's looking at next, and kind of be nimble, but don't get too trapped yet. Right between now and Wednesday, we and this week we could get a little bit of a trend. The trend has been, by the pullback so far, and that could continue, right? But we'll see. We got some good stuff on deck this week for us day traders, right? We don't have to be married to long-term swings. I think there's going to be some good money to be made this week. Just be patient and don't be too eager to, try to force something when it's not there yet. Wait until it develops, and then we'll get into it. Should be a great week.